Hello, viewers. Welcome to MBTV Weekly Property News Roundup. We bring to you top developments from Indian real estate space, which is going to have a lasting impact on you as consumers. I am Prasun Kumar, Marketing Head of Magicbricks, and with me is Jayashree Kurup, Senior Real Estate Journalist and Editor-in-Chief of MBTV. Welcome, Jayashree.
Thanks, Prasun.
So, Jayashree, lots of developments that have been happening. Economy is showing signs of turnaround. Quarter 2 GDP figures have been encouraging. And while we are officially technically in a recession because of 2 quarters of GDP decline, but hopefully next quarter we are likely to come out of it.
And real estate is leading the recovery. There's a lot of recovery in real estate. End users are actively buying. There is a lot of positivity, and funds are also getting consumed. See, materials are consumed on the ground. That actually production is happening on the ground.
That's true, and that's what moves the economy anyway. So, talking about funds, Jayashree, the first significant development that happened last week was the Swami Fund, the stress fund that was set up by government to revive projects. That seems to have started working, and that seems to have started delivering confidence to buyers, because the reports are that not only more than 30,000 crores of funds have been dispersed to finish various projects, but buyers have gained enough confidence to now come to developers for transaction related activities as well. So how do you see this spanning out now from here?
Actually, Prasun, I think 13,200 crore has been, and 136 projects have been allocated. Only 36 projects have so far got the money, which means that the process has begun and we have a long way to go. But more than that, I think what's important is that the consumer money has started coming into these 36 projects, and SBI Caps has been very smartly telling the developers, why don't you communicate to the consumers that Swami funds are here to complete your project. That has turned around the consumer sentiment, and rightly so. If there's a government fund that has come to rescue a project, that does instill confidence, and the consumer money has started coming in. Remember, Swami fund is not a dole. It's something that has to be paid back. So once the consumer, the virtuous cycle starts and the consumer money starts coming in, that means that the Swami fund can be released for another project to get started.
Yes, and along with government's proactiveness on Swami and stress fund that was set up, I think Supreme Court is also playing quite an important role, especially with some of the large stuck projects in terms of taking them towards resolution, and as some of the RERA authorities as well. So all in all, it bodes well for the industry, and consumers can look forward to resolution of lots of issues, pending issues in near future, and therefore that revival cycle will further get strengthened. That we're talking about, right? So the another important development that happened was related to capital gains tax, and as viewers would know, for on sale and purchase of any property, there is a capital gains tax that one has to pay. Now there was a news that came where Income Tax Appellate Tribunal has said that the amenities costs that are incurred by the owner can reduce the capital gains on a flat sale. Can you just elaborate it in simpler terms for our viewers so that they understand it fully?
See, when you buy a house, there are upfront expenses. There is stamp duty, there's registration fee. There is, all those are counted in as cost of acquisition. But one consumer went to the appellate tribunal and said, look, if I buy a house and I spend on upgrading it, for instance, you've put marble floors, you've done woodwork, all that, she managed to keep all her bills. And when she was selling the house, she said, look, all this is cost of acquisition. When I buy a house and I do it up and I fit it out, all that is cost of acquisition. The important thing is that this will become a precedent to a lot of people, because if this is cost of acquisition, you can reduce the capital gains, right? And people spend a lot of money on amenities like this. But rarely do people save the bills. But if you file your bills, you can use that when you want to sell as cost of acquisition.
Okay. All right. So all in all, it obviously gives fillip to the entire transaction market, with lower tax. Now, staying on the tax regime, Jayashree, uh, uh, ITAT has also ruled that there is no tax that is applicable on an owner of a flat if he or she has rented it out and if the tenant defaults on that payment. Now, what is this case? What was the significance of this, and how does it impact?
See, this is a leasing company. The leasing company had leased out the flat and the tenant had stopped paying. The next year, the tenant paid a few months' rent. Now, clearly, though, on the books, the leasing company's books, this should have been 100% revenue, but it didn't come. So that's what they have said, that if the money hasn't actually come into your accounts, then you don't have to pay a tax on it.
Okay.
Logical, but it is just a clarification.
Sure, very progressive indeed. We are also witnessing an era, Jayashree, of very, very low home loan interest rates. And this is something which has been obviously pushed very hard by the present dispensation as well, to make purchase and sale of properties affordable during this time, and to restart the real estate cycle again. Now, Keki Mistry, who is vice chairman and CEO of HDFC, probably the largest lender in the country, has come out and said that this lower home loan interest rate is likely to prevail for next 12 months at least. Very, very good news for buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would say that it's difficult to project. If Keki Mistry has said it, of course, it will add a lot of value. But the economy is changing in directions that we have not been able to anticipate. Mm-hmm. And a lower home loan interest rate actually means that the rate of interest is low. So a lot of pensioners and so on who have deposited their money in banks are not getting a very high returns either. So it works both ways. There are two sides to it. The deposits will come down and the offtake of loans will go up. So it's a complex thing, and it's good news for the industry. It's good news for the buyers, and we have to see how it plays out in the market.
Sure. In Karnataka, there was an interesting development that happened, Jayashree, and this is something that you and I and every single individual goes through in our daily life, which is issues related to parking. And often in cities, there's not enough parking space for the amount of vehicles probably that are there, and you see in residential colonies where the vehicles are parked on the road in front of homes, and they do not have really a designated parking space. Now, Karnataka government is coming out with a draft parking policy for Bengaluru, where they're proposing to make all such parking as paid parking if it is parked in a non-designated parking area that is on the road in front of one's house, and so on and so forth. Now, while this is going to impact, obviously, a whole lot of people, because that's almost a unwritten norm in the country, city after city. Do you think this is progressive? This is the need of the hour, and what are the larger implications of this?
See, already parking is something that city governments have been addressing. In the last 2-3 years, we have seen that they have been insisting on stilt parking in plotted development, so that the cars would be parked inside. In multi-story apartments, they have to provide for the number of parking, right? Often parking is short, and what happens is people park on the roads. The city governments have been trying to reclaim the road space by saying, either you pay us for that, because the road space belongs to the municipal government. I think the bigger issue that Bengaluru was trying to counter was that they created parking lots. The parking lots were underutilized, but everybody was parking on the streets. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that they want to tackle is that if I create a parking lot, you have to park in the parking lot, not out on the streets, for which they needed this law. Extending that law to the by saying that we need to have designated parking space, and if communities can negotiate with the municipal authority that so many units is parking space designated, and the rest of them have to pay for it. It's very nascent, but I think it is progressive. somewhere we will have to tackle this problem of parking.
That's right. That's true. So on that note, Jayashree, these were the important developments of last week. For our viewers, we'll come back again next week with all important developments. Keep watching MBTV. Lots happening there.
Thank you.